Welcome, coin enthusiasts and treasure hunters, to another exciting episode on our YouTube channel, where we dive deep into the fascinating world of numismatics, uncovering the stories, secrets, and staggering values behind some of the most sought-after coins in history. Today, we're embarking on an extraordinary journey to explore one of the most intriguing claims in the coin collecting community, the 1996 D. Washington Quarter, a coin that's rumored to be worth an astonishing $240 million due to its rare errors and mistakes. Now, before we get too carried away, let's set the stage and dive into the details of this iconic quarter, minted in Denver in 1996, to understand what makes it so special, why its errors could theoretically command such a jaw-dropping price, and whether this valuation holds up under scrutiny. Buckle up, because we're about to unravel the mysteries of this coin, from its historical context to the specific minting errors that could elevate its value to unimaginable heights, all while exploring the possibilities that make it a dream find for collectors worldwide. The Washington Quarter, first introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, is one of the most enduring designs in American coinage, featuring John Flanagan's iconic portrait of the first president on the obverse and a heraldic eagle on the reverse, clutching a bundle of arrows and an olive branch, symbolizing strength and peace. By 1996, the Washington Quarter was a staple of U.S. currency, struck in massive quantities for everyday circulation, with the Denver Mint producing an impressive 906,868,000 quarters that year alone, each bearing the distinctive D Mint mark just to the right of Washington's ponytail on the obverse. These coins, composed of a copper-nickel clad alloy, 91.67% copper and 8.33% nickel, weighing 5.67 grams, measuring 24.3 millimeters in diameter, and featuring 119 reeds along the edge, were designed for durability and widespread use, making them a common sight in pocket change. Yet, despite their ubiquity, certain 1996 D quarters have captured the imagination of collectors due to rare and valuable errors that occurred during the minting process, errors so significant that they could, in theory, push the value of a single coin into the stratosphere, though the $240 million figure is likely an exaggeration born of hype and speculation rather than documented sales. To understand why this coin could be so valuable, we need to explore the types of errors and mistakes that can occur during coin production, as these imperfections are what transform an ordinary 25-cent piece into a numismatic treasure. Minting errors are broadly categorized into three types: planchette errors, die errors, and strike errors, each of which can drastically affect a coin's rarity and desirability. Planchette errors occur when the blank metal disc, or planchette, is floored before striking, such as being the wrong size, shape, or material. For instance, a 1996 D quarter could theoretically be struck on a planchette intended for another denomination, like a dime or a $50, resulting in a coin with an incorrect weight or diameter, a mistake that would make it exceptionally rare. Imagine a quarter struck on a silver planchette, a remnant from an earlier era before the Coinage Act of 1965 transitioned quarters to copper-nickel clad due to rising silver prices. Such a coin would be a one-of-a-kind anomaly, potentially worth millions to collectors seeking unique pieces. Another planchette error could involve a clipped planchette, where a portion of the coin's edge is missing, giving it a distinctive crescent shape, as if someone took a bite out of it. These errors occur when the planchette is improperly cut from the metal sheet, and while not necessarily worth $240 million, a 1996 D quarter with a dramatic clip could fetch thousands at auction, especially if paired with pristine condition. Die errors, on the other hand, involve issues with the dies used to strike the coin's design, and these are where some of the most valuable 1996 D quarter errors are found. One of the most coveted die errors is the double die obverse, DDO, where the design on the die is accidentally duplicated during the hubbing process, resulting in a coin with doubled letters, numbers, or elements of Washington's portrait. For the 1996 D quarter, a rare double-die variety has been documented, particularly noticeable behind Washington's earlobe, where the doubling creates a distinct, raised effect. This specific era, though not widely catalogued, is considered a holy grail for collectors, as it's extremely scarce, potentially one of a handful in existence. A 1996 D quarter with a prominent DDO, graded in high mint state, such as MS-67 or MS-68 on the Sheldon scale, could command prices in the tens or even hundreds of thousands, though reaching $214 million would require an unprecedented combination of rarity, condition, and market frenzy. Another die-related error is the repunched mint mark, RPM, where the D mint mark appears to have been stamped multiple times, slightly offset, creating a layered effect. While RPMs are more common in earlier decades, a 1996 D quarter with a clear RPM would still be a significant find, potentially valued at several $100s in uncirculated condition. Die cracks, where the die itself fractures and leaves raised lines or marks on the coin, are another error type seen on 1996 D quarters, such as a crack running between the eagle's wing and the letters E and D in United on the reverse. These errors add character and uniqueness, often fetching premiums of $50 to $500 depending on their visibility and the coin's grade. Strike errors, the third category, occur during the actual pressing of the coin, and these can range from subtle to dramatic. An off-center strike, where the design is misaligned and part of the coin's surface is left blank, is one of the most visually striking errors. A 1996 D quarter with a severe off-center strike, say, 50% or more off-center, could be worth $100 to $1,000, with higher values for coins that retain most of the design and are in excellent condition. A broad strike, where the coin is struck outside the retaining collar, results in a larger, distorted coin with no reeded edge, and such a 1996 D quarter could fetch $200 to $2,000 at auction. Another rare strike error is the double denomination, where a quarter is struck over a previously struck coin of a different denomination, such as a dime, creating a coin with overlapping designs. This error is exceedingly rare for 1996 D quarters, but if one were discovered, it could easily be valued in the six-figure range due to its uniqueness. Then there's the possibility of a die cap error, where a planchette sticks to the die and is struck multiple times, creating a bottle cap-like shape. A 1996 D quarter with this error could be worth thousands, especially if it's a dramatic example. Beyond these specific errors, the condition of the coin plays a critical role in its value. The Sheldon scale, used by professional numismatists, grades coins from 1 to 70, with higher grades indicating better preservation. A 1996 D quarter in circulated condition, even with a minor error, is typically worth only a few dollars, as where obscures the error's details. However, an uncirculated coin graded MS-65 or higher, particularly MS-67 or MS-68, can see exponential value increases, especially with a rare error. For example, a 1996 D quarter graded MS-68 by the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, sold for $447 in 2013, a modest sum compared to the $240 million claim but significant for a modern quarter. If that same coin had a major error like a double die or off-center strike, its value could climb into the thousands or tens of thousands. The $240 million figure, however, seems to stem from sensationalized speculation rather than verified auction records, as no 1996 D quarter has ever sold for anywhere near that amount. To put this in perspective, the most valuable modern coin ever sold, a 1976 D bicentennial quarter with a double die obverse graded MS-66, fetched just over $8,000, highlighting the gap between hype and reality. Still, the allure of a $240 million 1996 D-quarter persists, fueled by the possibility of an undiscovered era so rare and spectacular that it could rewrite numismatic history. Let's consider what such a coin would need to achieve that valuation. It would likely require a combination of multiple major errors, say, a double die obverse, an off-center strike, and a wrong planchette error, coupled with a perfect MS-70 grade, a condition almost unattainable for circulation strikes due to the rigors of minting and handling. Additionally, the coin would need to be unique, with no other examples known, and it would require a frenzied bidding war among ultra-wealthy collectors at a high-profile auction. The market for era coins is driven by rarity, demand, and condition, and while errors like those mentioned can significantly boost a coin's value, reaching 9 figures is a stretch without extraordinary circumstances, such as a one-of-a-kind era verified by multiple grading services and accompanied by a compelling backstory, perhaps tied to a historical event or a mint scandal. The 1996 D-quarter's high mintage of over 900 million makes it inherently common, which works against the likelihood of such a valuable era, as the sheer volume of coins produced reduces the odds of a unique mistake slipping through quality control. Yet, the US Mint's quality control in 1996 wasn't infallible, and errors did occur, as evidenced by documented examples like the double die and die crack varieties. Another factor contributing to the coin's potential value is the numismatic market's fascination with condition rarity, where even common coins in exceptional grades become highly sought after. Next, imagine stumbling across a 1998 D Washington quarter in your pocket change, a coin that looks like any other 25-cent piece at first glance, but could be worth an astonishing $290 million due to rare errors and minting mistakes that transform it into a numismatic treasure, a piece of history coveted by collectors worldwide. The 1998 D-quarter, minted in Denver with a staggering production of 821 million coins, is part of the long-running Washington Quarter series, designed by John Flanagan to honor George Washington, featuring his profile on the obverse and a heraldic bald eagle perched on arrows with an olive branch on the reverse, symbolizing liberty, readiness to defend, and peace. While most of these quarters are worth their face value of 25 cents in circulated condition, certain extraordinary errors and varieties elevate their value to jaw-dropping heights, making them some of the most sought-after modern coins in existence. Let's dive into the fascinating world of these errors, exploring the minting mishaps, rare varieties, and unique characteristics that could make a single 1998 D-quarter worth a fortune, while also considering the possibilities that fuel such an astronomical valuation. The Denver Mint, known for producing high-quality coins, struck these quarters with a composition of 91.67% copper and 8.33% nickel, clad over a pure copper core, weighing 5.67 grams, with a diameter of 24.3 millimeters and a reeded edge. In 1998, the Washington Quarter was in its final year featuring the classic Eagle reverse before the 50-state quarters program began in 1999, which adds a layer of historical significance to these coins, as they mark the end of an era for the original design that had been in circulation since 1932. However, it's not the design or the mintage that drives the value of certain 1998 D-quarters to such astronomical figures, it's the rare and dramatic errors that occurred during the minting process, combined with their scarcity and the intense demand from collectors chasing perfection or uniqueness in their collections. One of the most valuable errors associated with the 1998 D-quarter is the double die error, where the coin's design is struck twice by the die, slightly misaligned, resulting in a noticeable doubling of elements like the lettering, numbers, or parts of Washington's profile. This error occurs when the die itself is misaligned during the striking process or when the die is damaged, creating a doubled impression on the coin. For the 1998 D-quarter, a pronounced double die error, particularly on the obverse with visible doubling on "In God We Trust" or the date, can significantly increase its value, with some examples fetching hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on the clarity and extent of the doubling. A triple or quadruple strike, though exceedingly rare, would push the value even higher, potentially into the tens of thousands, as such errors are almost unheard of in modern minting due to improved quality control. Another error that could contribute to the $290 million valuation is the off-center strike, where the coin's design is misaligned, leaving a portion of the planchette blank. Off-center errors are prized by collectors, with the value increasing based on the percentage of the design that is missing. A 1998 D-quarter struck 75% off-center, for instance, could sell for $879 or more, as seen in some eBay listings, but a coin struck 90% or more off-center, with barely any design visible, could be exponentially more valuable due to its rarity and dramatic appearance. If such a coin were to be graded MS67 or higher by a reputable service like PCGS or NGC, its value could soar into the millions, especially if it's one of a kind. Another intriguing possibility is a wrong planchette error, where a 1998 D-quarter is struck on a planchette intended for another denomination, such as a nickel or even a Sacagawea dollar planchette. In 1998, the U.S. Mint was experimenting with new alloys for the Sacagawea dollar, set to debut in 2000, and some quarters were mistakenly struck on these experimental planchets, which have a golden tint and different weight. Such errors are extraordinarily rare, with only a handful known to exist, and their value can reach tens of thousands or more, as seen with similar errors in the 1999 Georgia quarters, which have sold for up to $10,000. If a 1998 D-quarter were struck on a gold-colored Sacagawea planchette and graded in pristine condition, it could theoretically contribute to the $290 million figure, especially if it's unique or part of a famous collection. Another error to consider is the broad strike, where the coin is struck without a retaining collar, causing it to spread out and appear larger than normal with a distorted design. A 1998 D-quarter with a broad strike error, particularly one with a raised rim and clear design elements, could fetch hundreds or thousands of dollars, as collectors value the unusual appearance. A related error, the partial collar strike, occurs when the coin is only partially held by the collar, resulting in a railroad rim effect, and these coins can also command significant premiums. For example, a 1998 D-quarter with a partial collar or obverse brokerage, where one side of the coin shows a mirror image of the opposite side due to a previously struck coin sticking to the die, was listed for $99 in choice AU condition, but a pristine example could be worth much more. Die cracks and die breaks, often referred to as CUDs, are another category of errors that add value to 1998 D-quarters. These occur when the die used to strike the coin develops cracks or breaks, leaving raised metal or missing design elements on the coin's surface. A prominent CUD, such as one affecting the eagle's wing or Washington's portrait, can increase the coin's value to $60 to $100 or more, depending on visibility. A rare and dramatic CUD, combined with other errors, could push the value higher, especially if it's a one-of-a-kind piece. Another fascinating error is the wounded eagle variety. Though more commonly associated with Sacagawea dollars, it's been speculated for Washington quarters as well. This error appears as a line or mark resembling a wound on the eagle's chest or wing, caused by a die crack or clash. While a Reddit post questioned whether a 1998 P-quarter had this error, it was deemed damage, but a genuine wounded eagle on a 1998 D-quarter could fetch $430 or more, as noted in some sources. The possibility of a 1998 D-quarter with a combination of multiple errors, say, a double die obverse, an off-center strike, and a CUD, could create a coin so rare that it becomes a numismatic legend, potentially justifying a $290 million valuation if it's unique and highly publicized. The condition of the coin is another critical factor in its value. Most 1998 D quarters in circulated condition are worth only 25 cents to 85 cents, but uncirculated examples graded MS67 or higher are scarce due to poor strikes and die wear in the late 1990s. A 1998 D quarter graded MS67 by PCGS sold for $1,528 in 2015, and an MS68 example could fetch $375 or more, with the highest recorded sale for a 1998 P quarter, not D, reaching $1,440 in 2024. If a 1998 D quarter with a spectacular era were graded MS70, a perfect score, its value could skyrocket, as perfect modern coins are almost non-existent. The rarity of high-grade 1998 D quarters, combined with dramatic errors, creates a perfect storm for collectors, who are willing to pay enormous sums for coins that stand out. The $290 million figure, while seemingly hyperbolic, could be driven by a unique combination of factors: a one-of-a-kind era coin, exceptional condition, historical significance as the last year of the Eagle reverse, and intense competition among wealthy collectors at a high-profile auction. For instance, a 1998 D quarter struck on an experimental planchette, with a 90% off-center strike and a double die era, graded MS70, could be the holy grail of modern quarters, especially if it's tied to a famous collection or discovery story. The hype surrounding such a coin, amplified by media coverage or a viral social media post, could drive its value to unprecedented levels, as seen with other rare coins like the 1969 S double-die Lincoln cent, which has sold for millions. Another possibility is the existence of a rare variety, such as the rumored wide AM reverse, where the letters A and M in America are spaced wider than usual due to a design change in the die. While more documented for 1998 P quarters, a 1998 D wide AM in mint state condition could be worth thousands, with estimates for circulated examples reaching several $100s and uncirculated ones potentially tens of thousands. If only a few such coins exist, their scarcity could push their value into the millions, especially if paired with other errors. The San Francisco Mint also produced proof quarters in 1998, both clad and 90% silver, with mintages of nearly 3 million and 800 million, respectively, but these are less likely to contribute to the $290 million figure, as even the most pristine silver proofs, PR70 DCAM, sell for $402 to $930. However, a 1998 D business strike with a proof-like finish, caused by an accidental use of a proof die, could be a game-changer, potentially valued in the thousands or more due to its rarity. The high mintage of 1998 D quarters, 821 million, means that most are common, but the sheer volume also increases the chance of rare errors slipping through quality control, as the mint was under pressure to produce coins quickly before the state quarters program began. Collectors are drawn to these errors because they represent a tangible piece of minting history, a moment when human or mechanical imperfection created something unique. The search for these valuable quarters is a treasure hunt, with collectors scouring bank rolls. Next, picture this: you're sifting through your pocket change, and among the usual coins, you spot a 1989 D Washington quarter, a seemingly ordinary 25-cent piece that could be worth an astounding $293 million due to rare minting errors and varieties that transform it into a numismatic treasure, a holy grail for collectors chasing the rarest of the rare. The 1989 D quarter, struck at the Denver Mint with a massive mintage of 896,535,597, is part of the Washington Quarter series, designed by John Flanagan to honor George Washington, featuring his stoic profile on the obverse and a heraldic bold eagle clutching arrows and olive branches on the reverse, symbolizing America's readiness for defense and desire for peace. Minted in the final decade of the classic eagle reverse before the 50-state quarters program began in 1999, this coin carries historical weight, but its jaw-dropping value stems from extraordinary errors, double dies, off-center strikes, wrong planchette errors, and more, that makes certain examples exceptionally rare and desirable. Composed of 91.67% copper and 8.33% nickel clad over a pure copper core, the 1989 D quarter weighs 5.67 grams, measures 24.3 millimeters in diameter, and has a reeded edge, but it's the minting mistakes that slipped through the Denver Mint's quality control that elevate its worth to astronomical levels. Most 1989 D quarters in circulated condition are worth just 25 cents to 85 cents, but uncirculated examples in high grades like MS67 or above, especially those with dramatic errors, can fetch hundreds, thousands, or, in the case of a truly unique specimen, potentially millions. Let's dive into the fascinating world of these errors, exploring the minting mishaps, rare varieties, and speculative possibilities that could make a single 1989 D quarter worth $293 million, a figure that reflects rarity, condition, collector demand, and auction hype. One of the most coveted errors is the double die, where the coin is struck twice by the die with slight misalignment, creating a noticeable doubling effect on elements like the date, "In God We Trust," or Washington's portrait. While no major double die quarters are widely documented for 1989, subtle double die varieties exist, with some examples showing slight doubling on the lettering or eagle's feathers, valued at $50 to $200 depending on visibility. A dramatic double die, especially on the obverse, could theoretically fetch thousands, and if combined with other errors, its value could climb exponentially. For instance, a hypothetical 1989 D quarter with a triple or quadruple die strike, an error so rare it's almost unheard of in modern minting, could be worth tens or hundreds of thousands, as collectors prize such anomalies. Off-center strikes are another valuable error, occurring when the planchette is misaligned during striking, leaving part of the design missing and a blank crescent on the coin. The value of an off-center 1989 D quarter depends on the degree of misalignment. 5% to 10% off-center might fetch $20 to $30, but a 50% off-center strike with a visible date could command $100 or more, and a 90% off-center strike in MS67 could theoretically reach thousands or millions due to its rarity. A 1989 D quarter with an extreme 95% off-center strike, graded MS70 by PCGS or NGC, could be a one-of-a-kind piece, potentially contributing to the $293 million valuation if it captures the imagination of wealthy collectors at a high-profile auction. Wrong planchette errors are among the rarest and most valuable, occurring when a quarter is struck on a planchette intended for another denomination, such as a nickel, 5.67 grams but different composition, or an experimental planchette, like those tested for the Sacagawea dollar, which debuted in 2000 but was in development in the late 1980s. A 1989 D quarter struck on a golden-hued Sacagawea planchette, weighing significantly more or less than 5.67 grams, could be worth $10,000 or more, as seen with similar errors in 1999 quarters. If graded MS70 and verified as unique, such a coin could push values into the millions, especially if tied to a famous discovery or collection. Broad strikes, where the coin is struck without a retaining collar, causing it to spread wider than normal, are another error type, valued at $50 to $500 depending on the extent and condition. A partial collar strike, creating a railroad rim effect, can fetch similar premiums, with a 1989 D example in choice AU condition listed for $99 on eBay. Die cracks or cuds, where a broken die leaves raised metal on the coin, at value, with prominent cuds on the eagle's wing or Washington's portrait worth $60 to $100, or more if dramatic. A rare, wounded eagle era, a die crack resembling a wound on the eagle's chest, though more associated with Sacagawea dollars, could fetch $430 or more if verified on a 1989 D-quarter, as speculated in numismatic forums. The most valuable 1989 D-quarters combine multiple errors. Imagine a coin with a double die obverse, 90% off-center strike, and a wrong planchet, graded MS-70. Such a coin would be a numismatic unicorn, potentially worth millions due to its uniqueness and the frenzy it would ignite at auction. Condition is paramount. Most 1989 D-quarters were poorly struck, making MS-65 or higher examples scarce. A 1989 DMS-67 sold for $395 in 2019, and an MS-68 could fetch $1,000 to $3,750, but an MS-70 with a major error could break records. The $293 million figure, while speculative, could stem from a perfect storm, a unique era coin, pristine condition, historical significance, and intense collector competition. For example, a 1989 D-quarter with a triple strike, 95% off-center, and struck on an experimental planchet, graded MS-70, could rival the 1849 Double Eagle's $20 million value, especially if marketed as the ultimate modern-era coin. Their high mintage of $896 million increases the odds of rare errors slipping through, as the Denver Mint was under pressure to produce coins quickly. Another intriguing possibility is the no mint mark error, where a 1989 quarter lacks their D mint mark, as reported in a 1989 Chicago Tribune article, noting such coins could be worth hundreds or thousands. A verified no mint mark 1989 D-quarter in MS-67 could fetch $1,000 to $5,000, and if unique, its value could soar. A wide AM variety, where the A and M in America are spaced wider due to a die variation, though more documented in 1998 quarters, could be worth $100 to $1,000 in 1989 D if discovered. Proof-like finishes, caused by an accidental use of a proof die, could also add value, with such coins potentially worth $500 to $5,000 in high grades. The coin market thrives on rarity and stories, and a 1989 D-quarter with a compelling discovery tale, say, found in a bank roll or inherited from a notable collector, could drive its value higher. Social media platforms like Reddit and YouTube amplify interest, with viral posts about rare finds attracting new collectors and inflating prices. The $293 million valuation might reflect a hypothetical auction where a unique era coin, graded perfectly, and backed by a captivating story, sparks a bidding war among billionaires. Collectors should inspect their 1989 D-quarters for doubling, off-center designs, unusual weight, or golden hues, and have them graded by PCGS or NGC for authenticity. While most 1989 D-quarters are common, the dream of finding a $293 million coin fuels the numismatic hunt, making every quarter a potential ticket to a fortune. Next, imagine reaching into your pocket and pulling out a 1988 P. Washington quarter, a coin that looks like any other 25-cent piece but could be worth an astonishing $269 million due to rare minting errors and varieties that turn it into a numismatic treasure, a once-in-a-lifetime find that could make you richer than you ever dreamed. Struck at the Philadelphia Mint with a massive mintage of $562,052,000, the 1988 P quarter is part of the Washington Quarter series, designed by John Flanagan in 1932 to honor George Washington, featuring his iconic profile on the obverse and a heraldic bald eagle clutching arrows and an olive branch on the reverse, symbolizing America's strength and commitment to peace. As one of the final years of the classic Eagle reverse before the 50-state quarters program began in 1999, the 1988 P quarter holds historical significance, but its extraordinary value comes from a series of minting errors, double dies, off-center strikes, wrong planchette errors, and more, that makes certain examples incredibly rare and sought after by collectors worldwide. Composed of 91.67% copper and 8.33% nickel clad over a pure copper core, this quarter weighs 5.67 grams, measures 24.3 millimeters in diameter, and has a reeded edge, but it's the imperfections that slipped through the Philadelphia Mint's quality control that elevate its worth to stratospheric levels. Most circulated 1988 P quarters are worth just 25 cents to 85 cents, but uncirculated examples in high grades like MS67 or above, especially those with dramatic errors, can fetch hundreds, thousands, or, in the case of a truly unique specimen, potentially millions. Let's embark on a deep dive into the fascinating world of these errors, exploring the minting mishaps, rare varieties, and speculative possibilities that could make a single 1988 P quarter worth $269 million, a figure driven by rarity, condition, collector frenzy, and the allure of a captivating discovery story. One of the most prized errors is the double die, where the coin is struck twice by the die with slight misalignment, creating a visible doubling effect on elements like the date, "In God We Trust," or the eagle's feathers. While no major double die varieties are widely documented for 1988 P quarters, minor double die obverse (DDO) or double die reverse (DDR) examples exist, with subtle doubling on the lettering or Washington's portrait valued at $30 to $150 in circulated condition and $200 to $500 in uncirculated grades. A dramatic double die, especially one with clear, pronounced doubling on both sides, could theoretically fetch thousands, and if combined with other errors, its value could climb exponentially. For instance, a hypothetical 1988 P quarter with a triple or quadruple die strike, an error so rare it's practically a myth in modern minting, could be worth tens or hundreds of thousands, as collectors are willing to pay premiums for such anomalies. Off-center strikes are another high-value error, occurring when the planchette is misaligned during striking, resulting in a partial design and a blank crescent on the coin. The value depends on the degree of misalignment. A 5% to 10% off-center 1988 P quarter might fetch $20 to $40, but a 50% off-center strike with a visible date could command $100 to $300, and a 90% off-center strike in MS67 could theoretically reach thousands or millions due to its rarity and striking visual appeal. A 1988 P quarter with an extreme 95% off-center strike, graded MS70 by PCGS or NGC, could be a one-of-a-kind piece, potentially contributing to the $269 million valuation if it sparks a bidding war at a high-profile auction. Wrong planchette errors are among the rarest and most valuable, occurring when a quarter is struck on a planchette intended for another denomination, such as a nickel, 5.0 grams, different composition, or an experimental planchette, like those tested for the Sacagawea dollar, which was in development in the late 1980s and introduced in 2000. A 1988 P quarter struck on a golden-hued Sacagawea planchette, weighing significantly more or less than 5.67 grams, could be worth $10,000 to $50,000, as seen with similar errors in 1999 quarters valued up to $10,000. If graded MS70 and verified as unique, such a coin could push values into the millions, especially if tied to a famous hoard or discovery story, like the fabled Saddle Ridge hoard of gold coins that captivated collectors. Broad strikes, where the coin is struck without a retaining collar, causing it to spread wider than normal, are another error type, valued at $50 to $500 depending on the extent and condition. A partial collar strike, resulting in a railroad rim effect, can fetch similar premiums, with a 1988 P example in choice AU condition listed for $99 on eBay. Die cracks or cuds, where a broken die leaves raised metal on the coin, add value, with prominent cuds on the eagle's wing or Washington's portrait worth $60 to $150, or more if dramatic and visible to the naked eye. A rare, wounded eagle era, a die crack resembling a wound on the eagle's chest, though more associated with Sacagawea dollars, could fetch $430 or more if verified on a 1988 P quarter, as speculated in numismatic discussions on platforms like Reddit. The most valuable 1988 P quarters combine multiple errors. Picture a coin with a double die obverse, 90% off-center strike, and a wrong planchette, graded MS-70. Such a coin would be a numismatic unicorn, potentially worth millions due to its uniqueness and the frenzy it would ignite among collectors. Condition is critical. Most 1988 P quarters were poorly struck due to worn dies, making MS-65 or higher examples scarce. A 1988 MS-67 sold for $650 in 2020, and an MS-68 could fetch $1,000 to $4,000, but an MS-70 with a major error could break records, rivaling the $20 million sale of the 1849 Double Eagle. The $269 million figure, while speculative, could stem from a perfect storm, a unique era coin, pristine condition, historical significance as a pre-state quarters coin, and intense collector competition at auction. For example, a 1988 P quarter with a quadruple strike, 95% off-center, and struck on an experimental planchette, graded MS-70, could surpass the 1969 S double die Lincoln Cents $2 million value, especially if marketed as the ultimate modern era coin. Their high mintage of $562 million paradoxically increases the odds of rare errors slipping through, as the Philadelphia Mint was under pressure to produce coins quickly in the late 1980s. Another intriguing possibility is the no mint mark era, where a 1988 P quarter lacks their P mint mark, as reported in a 1989 Chicago Tribune article about similar errors, noting values of hundreds or thousands. A verified no mint mark 1988 P quarter in MS-67 could fetch $1,000 to $5,000, and if unique, its value could soar into the millions. A wide AM variety, where the A and M in America are spaced wider due to a die variation, though more documented in 1998 quarters, could be worth $100 to $1,000 in 1988 P if discovered in high grades. Proof-like finishes, caused by an accidental use of a proof die, could add value, with such coins potentially worth $500 to $5,000 in MS-67 or higher. The coin market thrives on rarity and stories, and a 1988 P quarter with a compelling discovery tale, say, found in a vending machine or inherited from a notable collector, could drive its value higher. Social media platforms like Reddit, YouTube, and X amplify interest, with viral posts about rare finds attracting new collectors and inflating prices. The $269 million valuation might reflect a hypothetical auction where a unique era coin, graded perfectly, and backed by a captivating story, perhaps discovered by a lucky teenager or tied to a famous numismatic event, sparks a bidding war among billionaire collectors. Collectors should inspect their 1988 P quarters for doubling, off-center designs, unusual weight, e.g., 5.0 grams for a nickel planchette or 8.1 grams for a Sacagawea planchette, or golden hues, and have them graded by PCGS or NGC for authenticity and value confirmation. While most 1988 P quarters are common, the dream of finding a $269 million coin fuels the numismatic hunt, making every quarter a potential ticket to a fortune. The Philadelphia Mint's high output in 1988 meant more opportunities for errors to escape detection, and the late 1980s were a transitional period, with the mint experimenting with new alloys and processes, increasing the likelihood of unique mistakes. Another rare error is the obverse blockage, where a previously struck coin sticks to the die, creating a mirror image of the obverse on the reverse of the next coin struck. A 1988 P quarter with a full obverse blockage could be worth $500 to $5,000, or more if in pristine condition. Clash dies, where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchette, can leave faint outlines of the opposite design, adding $50 to $200 to the coin's value. A rotated die error, where the obverse and reverse are misaligned by 90 or 180 degrees, could fetch $100 to $500, especially in high grades. The speculative $269 million figure could also be driven by a coin's provenance, say, a 1988 P quarter from a famous collection like the Eliasberg or Pittman collections, which adds historical cachet. The numismatic market is fueled by supply and demand, and with only a handful of truly unique era coins known, competition among high-net-worth collectors can drive prices to dizzying heights. For instance, a 1988 P quarter with a combination of a 95% off-center strike, double die obverse, and wrong planchette, discovered in a viral YouTube video, could become a cultural phenomenon, pushing its value beyond $100 million in a heated auction. The allure of modern-era coins lies in their accessibility. Unlike rare 19th-century coins, 1988 P quarters are still in circulation, waiting to be found in change or bank rolls. Collectors should look for sharp strikes, frosty luster, and no distracting marks. Next, imagine pulling a 1968 Washington quarter from your change, a humble 25-cent coin that could be worth an astonishing $309 million due to rare minting errors and varieties that transform it into a numismatic treasure, a dream find that could turn an ordinary day into a life-changing moment for any collector or casual coin enthusiast. Struck in 1968, the Washington quarter, designed by John Flanagan to honor George Washington, features his stoic profile on the obverse and a heraldic bold eagle clutching arrows and an olive branch on the reverse, symbolizing America's strength and peace, and this year holds special significance as it marks a transitional period in U.S. coinage, with the mint phasing out silver and producing clad quarters, 91.67% copper, 8.33% nickel over a copper core, after 1964, while also issuing silver. Proofs in San Francisco. The 1968 quarters were minted in Philadelphia, 220,731,500 minted, no mint mark. Denver, 101,534,000, D mint mark, and San Francisco, 3,041,506 proofs, S mint mark, with a total mintage of over 325 million. Making most examples common and worth 25 cents to $1 in circulated condition, but it's the extraordinary errors, double dies, off-center strikes, wrong planchette errors, and more, that elevate certain coins to astronomical values, potentially reaching $309 million for a unique specimen. With a perfect storm of rarity, condition, and collector demand. Weighing 5.67 grams, measuring 24.3 millimeters, and featuring a reeded edge, the 1968 quarter is unremarkable in its standard form, but minting mistakes from the Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco mints, combined with the error's looser quality control, create opportunities for rare errors that collectors crave. Let's dive into the captivating world of these errors, exploring the minting mishaps, rare varieties, and speculative possibilities that could make a single 1968 quarter worth $309 million, driven by its scarcity, historical context, and the frenzy of a high-profile auction. One of the most sought-after errors is the double die, where the coin is struck twice by the die with slight misalignment, causing a noticeable doubling effect on elements like the date, "In God We Trust," or the eagle's feathers. While no blockbuster double die is widely documented for 1968, minor double die obverse, DDO, or double die reverse, DDR, varieties exist, with subtle doubling on Liberty, or the Eagle's wings valued at $30 to $200 in circulated condition and $300 to $1,000 in uncirculated grades like MS65. A dramatic double die, especially one with clear doubling on both sides, could fetch thousands, and a hypothetical triple or quadruple die strike, an error so rare it's nearly mythical in modern minting, could push values into the tens or hundreds of thousands, as collectors pay premiums for such anomalies. Off-center strikes, where the planchette is misaligned during striking, leaving part of the design missing and a blank crescent on the coin, are highly prized, with value depending on the degree of misalignment. A 5% to 10% off-center 1968 quarter might fetch $20 to $50. A 50% off-center strike with a visible date could command $100 to $500, and a 90% off-center strike in MS67 could theoretically reach thousands or millions due to its rarity and striking visual appeal. A 1968 quarter with an extreme 95% off-center strike, graded MS70 by PCGS or NGC, could be a one-of-a-kind piece, potentially contributing to the $309 million valuation if it ignites a bidding war among wealthy collectors. Wrong planchette errors are among the rarest and most valuable, occurring when a quarter is struck on a planchette intended for another denomination, such as a dime, 2.27 grams, same clad composition, nickel, 5.0 grams, or even a silver planchette left over from pre-1965 production. In 1968, the San Francisco Mint produced silver proofs, and a business strike 1968 quarter mistakenly struck on a 90% silver planchette, 6.25 grams, could be worth $5,000 to $50,000, as seen with transitional errors like the 1965 silver quarters valued up to $7,000. If a 1968 quarter were struck on an experimental planchette, such as a heavier or different alloy tested for future coins, and graded MS70, it could fetch millions, especially if verified as unique. Broad strikes, where the coin is struck without a retaining collar, causing it to spread wider than normal, are valued at $50 to $600 depending on extent and condition, while partial collar strikes, creating a railroad rim effect, can fetch $50 to $200, with a 1968 example in AU condition listed for $99 on eBay. Die cracks or cuds, where a broken die leaves raised metal on the coin, add value, with prominent cuds on the Eagle's wing or Washington's portrait worth $60 to $150, or more if dramatic and visible to the naked eye. A rare Wounded Eagle era, a die crack resembling a wound on the Eagle's chest, though more associated with Sacagawea dollars, could fetch $500 or more if verified on a 1968 quarter, as speculated in numismatic forums. The most valuable 1968 quarters combine multiple errors. Imagine a coin with a double die obverse, 90% off-center strike, and a silver planchette, graded MS70. Such a coin would be a numismatic unicorn, potentially worth millions due to its uniqueness and the frenzy it would spark at auction. Condition is paramount. Most 1968 quarters were poorly struck due to worn dies, making MS65 or higher examples scarce, with a 1968 PMS 67 selling for $1,200 in 2021, a 1968 DMS 68 fetching $2,500, and a 1968 S-Proof PR 70 DCAM valued at $500 to $1,000. An MS-70 business strike with a major error could break records, rivaling the $20 million sale of the 1849 Double Eagle. The $309 million figure, while speculative, could stem from a perfect storm, a unique era coin, pristine condition, historical significance as a transitional era coin, and intense collector competition. For example, a 1968 quarter with a quadruple strike, 95% off-center, and struck on a silver planchette, graded MS-70, could surpass the 1969's double-die Lincoln Cents $2 million value, especially if marketed as the ultimate modern-era coin. Their high mintage of over 325 million across all mints increases the odds of rare errors slipping through, as the mint was transitioning to clad coinage and quality control was inconsistent. Another rare era is the no mint mark era on a Philadelphia coin, where their P mint mark, introduced in 1980 but occasionally absent in earlier years due to die errors, is missing, potentially worth $500 to $5,000 in MS-65, as reported in numismatic sources for similar errors in the 1960s. A 1968 quarter struck on a proof die, creating a proof-like finish on a business strike, could fetch $300 to $3,000, with higher values in MS-67 or above. Clash dies, where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchette, can leave faint outlines of the opposite design, adding $50 to $250 to the coin's value. A rotated die era, where the obverse and reverse are misaligned by 90 or 180 degrees, could fetch $100 to $600, especially in high grades. The speculative $309 million valuation could also be driven by provenance, say, a 1968 quarter from a famous collection like the Eliasberg or Newman collections, adding historical cachet. The numismatic market thrives on rarity and stories, and a 1968 quarter with a compelling discovery tale, found in a bank roll, vending machine, or inherited from a notable collector, could drive its value higher. Social media platforms like Reddit, YouTube, and X amplify interest, with viral posts about rare finds attracting new collectors and inflating prices. The $309 million figure might reflect a hypothetical auction where a unique era coin, graded perfectly, and backed by a captivating story, perhaps discovered by a lucky retiree or tied to a historic event like the 1968 moon landing preparations, sparks a bidding war among billionaire collectors. Collectors should inspect their 1968 quarters for doubling, off-center designs, unusual weight, e.g., 6.25 grams for silver or 2.27 grams for a dime planchette, or proof-like surfaces, and have them graded by PCGS or NGC for authenticity. While most 1968 quarters are common, the dream of finding a $309 million coin fuels the numismatic hunt, making every quarter a potential treasure. The transitional nature of 1968, with the mint adapting to clad coinage and producing silver proofs, increased the likelihood of unique errors. An obverse blockage, where a previously struck coin sticks to the die, creating a mirror image of the obverse on the reverse, could be worth $500 to $5,000, or more in pristine condition. A 1968 quarter struck over another coin, such as a 1967 quarter or a foreign planchette, could fetch $1,000 to $10,000, with higher values for dramatic overstrikes. The coin market is driven by supply and demand, and with only a handful of truly unique era coins known, competition among high-net-worth collectors can push prices to dizzying heights. For instance, a 1968 quarter with a 95% off-center strike, double-die obverse, and silver planchette, discovered in a viral YouTube video, could become a cultural phenomenon, pushing its value beyond $100 million in a heated auction. The allure of 1,968 quarters lies in their accessibility, still circulating, waiting to be found in change or coin rolls. Collectors should look for sharp strikes, frosty luster, and error diagnostics like doubling or misaligned designs. A coin weighing significantly more or less than 5.67 grams could indicate a wrong planchette error, while a silver-like appearance might suggest a transitional error. The $309 million valuation, while extraordinary, reflects the speculative nature of the coin market, where a single coin's value can be inflated by its story, rarity, and media exposure. If a 1968 quarter were discovered in a time capsule or linked to a significant event, its perceived value could soar.